Hello everybody and welcome to the Super Bowl edition of this ridiculous video series. Before I talk about today's game, I would like to touch briefly on the conspiracy surrounding Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Obviously, something doesn't add up. The NFL expects me to believe that some famous, rich, successful, pretty musician just happens to fall in love with a rich, successful, famous, and dashing football player? I don't buy it. Frankly, I'm sure the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, knows that we good, hard-working, beer-drinking, football-watching Americans will tune out if shots of pretty women keep interrupting our pure football viewing experience. Which is why I know that something else is going on here. The obvious excuse is greed. After all, more eyes on the product means more money in the pockets of league owners, right? I would hate to think that the NFL would try to co-opt some pop star and turn America's favorite sport into some kind of commodity all for the sake of higher league corporate earnings. I'm sure Mr. Goodell knows if they did something that brazen to take that kind of shameless approach to generate more money for the league, that the boycotts would start in earnest. Clearly the government is involved, and this is a psyop. And that's why I won't be talking any further about Tay-Tay today. I'm sorry, Swifties, if you stumbled across this channel, maybe one of my literally tens of viewers told you should watch this, you're in the wrong place. And if you think I'm going to be making all sorts of little jokes about T Swift and T Kelsey or whatever, you're going to be disappointed. If you want to hear my thoughts on the game, you're just going to have to shake it off. All right, today's the big game, so I'm going with a big bottle of Bragi from Groenfell Meadery. It's a black currant mead with elderflowers, rose hips, and juniper. Alcohol content, 12.5% by volume. It's in a recorkable bottle, so you can open and share. Yeah, you guys don't care. The Groenfell Ancient Collection is the culmination of 10,000 years of human mead making. It's our attempt to pay homage to all of those who came before us and to inspire mead makers into the distant future. Bragi blends wildflower honey, black currants, elderflowers, rose hips, and a touch of juniper berry to create a floral triumph inspired by 18th century Danish meads and the great Norse poet Bragi. Hashtag join the feast. As you can see, it's got a lovely rose red, kind of slightly like peach marmalade kind of oranginess to it. This doesn't show it super well. It kind of looks a little dark, actually. I wonder if there we go. You can see a little better. Let's give it a taste. Enjoy the game. Skål for there. That is complex. It reminds me of something right off the bat. I think it's maybe some kind of like a tart apple cider there's like a crabapple cider that I had from, I want to say, down in Maiden Rock, Wisconsin. Right off the bat, it reminds me so much of something. It's driving me nuts. It's somewhere between like a fruit wine. It's a little more tart than a lot of fruit wines. They tend to be really sweet. Not that this isn't sweet. There's a sweet finish, but there's like this subtle astringency, and you right off the bat you get almost, this is gonna sound maybe a little bad, but like almost like a cough syrup smoothness, and that kind of sweet, man, pungent is not the right word, but I'm having a hard time pinning this one down. This is a ride, and then it finishes with a bit of an alcohol burn and that sweetness. Really complex is the best word I can think of for it. This is interesting. It's definitely the rose hips on the finish. I'm gonna have to keep working on this and try to pin down all the things I'm tasting. That's really good. All right, on to the game. To state the obvious, I didn't get my perfect fantasy. If I had, the Vikings would have patched together a team and made a playoff run and faced off against the Buffalo Bills in a someone's has got to go Super Bowl. Instead, I, and the fans of 30 other teams, have to watch Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey face off in a game that will leave all of us thinking, those guys are the kind of flawless I wish I could be. While there isn't much bad blood between these two teams, and their corresponding shades of red, I still expect that we'll see sparks fly. The 49ers are seemingly on year 22 of Kyle Shanahan coaching up some of the most perfectly schemed, technically sound football and accomplishing the unthinkable with subpar quarterbacking. I mean, we could go all the way back to CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, Jimmy Garoppolo, and all the productive starts that he got out of quarterbacks of that caliber, or we could just go back to December and read the headlines and the social media posts questioning Brock Purdy's ability to overcome tough defenses. The fact that the Niners got walloped by the Ravens back in December, and then in the playoffs barely eked out victories over the Packers and the Lions, has a lot of people questioning if Brock Purdy will fare well against a Chiefs defense that has been one of the worst for opposing quarterbacks this season. Luckily for Brock, he's surrounded by a supporting cast that would make any quarterback think, this is how it ought to be. Brandon Ayuk is an incredible wide receiver, but he'll likely be facing off against the Chiefs' top cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed. George Kittle is a phenomenal all-around tight end. I mean, he catches, he blocks, he entertains, he does it all, but he's dealing with a toe injury. It has been, I think, for quite a while now. Debo is the incredible yards after catch Swiss Army knife. He runs it out of the backfield. He takes swing passes. He takes screen passes. He takes slants. He takes the ball in so many different ways and generates tons of yards after the catch. And I think he'll benefit probably the most of anybody from having L'Jarius Sneed covering Brandon Ayuk. Meanwhile, Christian McCaffrey will be facing off against a Chiefs defense that has been kind of leaky. I think they were like third in the league in yards allowed after contact to running backs, meaning like they made contact but couldn't bring them down. He's the most likely 49er, I think, who is going to find himself thinking, hey, isn't this easy? He's basically been a lock all season to go for like over 100 total yards and or score a touchdown. And unless the Chiefs scheme something up for him specifically, I think there's going to be trouble. The Chiefs, meanwhile, have endured a season-long slog with their wide receivers underperforming. Tyreek Hill left, and it's likely he and the Chiefs are never getting back together. So Mahomes is left trying to make it work with Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, I'm forgetting some, Mecole Hardman, and Richie James, and of course Travis Kelce. Rashee Rice has come on late in the season, not soon enough to save my fantasy teams, but he's showing signs of life. But he will be going up against the 49ers defense that just put clamps on fellow slot wide receivers Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jaden Reed. Not entirely shut them down, but definitely limited their production. MVS, the 49ers kind of deep threat, who's wildly unreliable, is likely going to be up against Charvarius Ward, the 49ers top cornerback. And Ward has done a great job all season of slowing down wide receivers, but MVS's production generally comes on 2 or 3 big catches in a game, so it's possible he could still make a splash here by getting loose on a couple deep shots. Most of the other receivers are rotational and really hard to pin down, but the real focal point of the Chiefs' offense, the apple of Patrick Mahomes' eye, is of course Travis Kelce. He's so tall and handsome as hell. He plays ball, and he does it so well. His on-field chemistry with Mahomes is much masticated, well documented, but together the two of them are breaking records for wide receiver and tight end connections, and that's in a league that just very recently had Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski playing catch out there. The Niners linebackers are phenomenal. So the question is, can Kelce and Mahomes' chemistry overcome the staunch powerhouse duo of Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner? I don't know how it gets better than this. This is truly a fascinating Super Bowl to me. Sure, it's between two teams that have been there recently, so some of that shine is gone. You know, it might have been really fun to see like a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl or a Bills-Lions Super Bowl. It would have been nice to see some new blood in there. But the game's being played in Vegas, the new home of the Raiders, and it's featuring two teams, the old regional rival of the Oakland Raiders, the San Francisco 49ers, and the current division rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. Two of the most successful, most respected head coaches are on each of the sidelines. One of the undoubtedly best quarterbacks in the league, surrounded by kind of a lackluster cast, facing off against a quarterback with everything to prove and a squad of all-stars around him. The Chiefs' stellar defense, the 49ers' stellar defense, Andy Reid cooking up some crazy things, Kyle Shanahan scheming to the strengths of his players. The player's gonna play, and I am dying to see how this one ends. My official prediction is that the 49ers' depth of talent is simply too much for the Chiefs to hold off, and the 49ers pull off a victory 27-17. I want to say it's going to be higher scoring because of the quality of play on the field, but both teams have good defenses. It's never a good idea to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, so shame on me now, but I have to go with my gut. Thank you to all of you who have watched this season. It means the world to me that you take time out of your busy lives to tune in. But before you go, tell me this. Was it worth it? I doubt I'll be covering the UFL this spring. It kicks off on March 30th, although I will be watching it. I plan on doing a draft episode, but if I don't, you know you can find me right back here next fall, talking over a football game with that same big loud opinion on the Vikings and Vikings fans. Until then, thanks for watching. Say you'll remember me. Skull feeleth air. And go Vikings.